Welcome to the Bitcoin Roadshow. It's been quite a long time. I've been in hospital and I've had a fucked up knee and I got operated on. I just wanted to do a wee video and probably a long video today. It's going to cover everything from where the bottom might be, how many times we might see the bottom and why. And there's the bus parked up there. So I bought a house in Slovenia a while ago, against my better advice because I was telling everyone not to buy property, but I got this a really good deal. And I couldn't put my bus in the barn. My brother came. I've had an operation in my knee reconstruction. It's really sore. And I'm not living in the bus at the moment because I'm trying to dry out the masonry in the house. I'm going to do more work in the summertime, but just wanted to get everything secured, all the masonry work done my brother did. I bought a cheap Skoda car. So I'm living a very, what do you call it, a recessionary life, because I left the old economy for the most part in 2017, 2016. Stopped living like a slave. And so the way I see it with the cryptocurrency side of things is that our market's in a recession at the moment. Act like it is. Try, rather than spend money, get ready to buy the dip. And I've been shorting for the first time ever. So not with everything I've got, just a little bit. I never risk everything. So anyway, my brother did the basics in the house. So I've got a shower and all that sort of shit, but do all the tiling in the summertime after this all dries out, do the roof. And I'll do the upstairs next year too. But for the moment, I'm just living down here. This will be the kitchen. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because it looks really, really bad and you're thinking, what the fuck are you doing, Craig? If you look at my previous videos, you can see how I used to live, and I just don't care because we don't need that much to survive. I've said in many other videos, a decent life. There's Rumble. He's just had beaten cancer for the second time this year, and looks like it's all gone. So basically, I've got these new windows in. So it's warm in here. Got this Pt1, which is Russian for a fireplace. It's the Slavic, use the same word all over the place. Just living a more simple, kind of reclusive life. And waiting for, well, not waiting really. Try to take advantage of some of these market movements that are happening at the moment. So as far as, I missed a few opportunities because I was trying to sell a property in New Zealand when Bitcoin was about $6,000 and it went down to 3 because I knew it was going to go down. I didn't think it would hit that low. I didn't think it would hit 3.5, but it did. I think it's going to happen again. And the reason is because if you look at, I like these LED globe lights. Anyway, we all know that the mining cost at the moment, until the halvening, is 6,000 per Bitcoin, right? And that means that, some countries pay as little as, say, 2.5 grand. Some countries pay 5, some countries pay 8, but they're mining for future value. So people talk about market manipulation, which of course does happen, and it's happening more and more all the time as institutions who were manipulating the old market move into the new market, right? So basically, they can dump massive amounts, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin on the markets to manipulate it that way. But what a lot of people don't look at is there's also miner manipulation. So if I'm a miner in China or Siberia and I want to put other miners out of business or just lower the difficulty rate, what I start doing is dumping on the market, but not on the OTC markets that don't affect the market price. Start dumping them on regular markets and then price drifts down, right? You split that up between hundreds or thousands of markets. You end up dragging the price down significantly. And this is why I think that 6 isn't the bottom. I think that it's more likely to be 3.5 again, or if not even lower. I think it couldn't go below 2 because at that point, there's enough people who believe in Bitcoin long-term to be buying up large between 2 and 3K. And that's why I don't think it's going to go below that amount. Because people are there's a lot of people who hold on to that amount thinking it will happen. It probably will. So I would say it may actually test that a few times before it actually shoots up beyond 20 grand. You see that it didn't break 13,900 last time, where I obviously was trying to sell my house and I could have bought in at 3,000 if one of the 4 opportunities had come through. 2 of them couldn't get finance, and 2 of them got stupid quotes for putting in services of 200k when it only cost 50k. So they didn't search for digger drivers and things like that. They're just idiots who went to the usual suspects and they don't think outside the box like I would if I was back in New Zealand. So missed that opportunity. So in the meantime, what I was doing is taking a portion of what I had and shorting for the last few months. And I've been using the profits from that shorting not just to increase my Bitcoin holdings, but also to get a bit of a stake back in Ethereum, because I sold out my Ethereum 2017, near the end of 2017, completely. A little bit too early, but I still made 10x. And it's because I don't really know the future of Ethereum. It could really go well or it could go bad. EOS could be, it could be its death knell. It might not be. You can never really tell. So I'm spreading into things more like getting more Dash, Monero, and what else? Digibyte. I picked up a lot of Digibyte. And that was just all with the gains that I made from shorting Bitcoin, you see. So I didn't really reduce my holdings at all, just increased it slightly and picked up the other coins. Now, I'm going to continue doing that for a while. It might be, I think I'll be taking it to the wire if I was doing this until January or February next year, because you can never tell it. All it takes is a few political events lined up, and they've already happened, a few of them in China, Hong Kong, all over the place. Where heads of state say certain things about Bitcoin, like in America, positive, negative things. You see the China news about blockchain, positive news about that, making it illegal to spread FUD, whereas in the UK and America, it's actually encouraged to lie to your public and the media. So what I think might happen is, I think it'll be a safe bet for a while to well, that's what I'm going to be doing anyway. You can do what you want. It's not advice, but I'm going to be playing around between the 10 to 8K region. And the reason why is because, like this time, I bought back in at 8K in case it didn't go down further. I thought it was going to go down further. And I kept a little bit out and then sold at 7.5. But I mean, for the most part, I sold at 8K. It's dollar cost average when you're selling. Either way, you've got a dollar cost average both way around. Now I know it can go up to 11.5. I know it can go down to 6. On most of these swings can go down between 7.5 up to 10, or let's say, even to be safe, between 10 and 8. That's your safe trading range for shorting, I think, at the moment. And it might be for the next couple of months. But in the next couple of months, I do think, especially with Christmas coming and it's not a bull market, we should still see lower lows, and it could be somewhere along the $3 mark. I'd be using what little fiat currency I have to buy in at that point more. Don't know why that's smoking. 1 second, just going to sort out this pit. I'm cooking some food on there. I've got an oven part on the top. Okay, back again. All right. I was trying a thing where I was trying to turn the top into a smoker, but I got smoked out. Anyway, like cooking spuds. All right. Where was I again? So you're, basically, if you're hoping for the market to be going mooning anytime soon, the only way that can happen, and I'm saying it pretty much won't, is, and the reason is, by the way, if you look at a video back in Wyoming in early 2018, I explained why. What we're seeing right now, I explained this back then, why it would be happening. That's because institutions want to buy in heavy. They need to rinse out hands. They need to get mainstream adoption to go low. And look what's happened. We've got very low mainstream adoption happening now. There's actually no change. But what you are having is adoption in the back end. So OTC trades from these large players like JP Morgan. As they accumulate more, they will dump on the market. You're also having the miners who try to price other miners out by dumping their coin in the markets for cheaper prices, dragging it down, not doing OTC. Because the way it works usually is a lot of these miners will become, liquidity providers for exchanges and all sorts of stuff. So when you start playing a game to reduce the difficulty rate, because that's what they want to do. Let's say I'm a miner. Let's say I've got half the world's hashing. Let's say I've got a quarter of the world's hashing power, and I start selling at a loss for you, if you were selling at that price, but not a loss for me. What you're doing is you're keeping skin in the game. You're still making your margins. You're still viable, and your competition gets flushed out the market, kind of like what Jeff Bezos does with his Amazon businesses, right? He operates but he does different. He operates at a loss, but he takes socialism and makes it work. And he takes socialist profit, which is taxes, and turns it into profit for his company, right? And no one has an issue with that. So the reason it's going to carry on as long as possible, there's only one thing that's going to change the Bitcoin moon situation, and that is adoption. And that can only happen if the market gets spooked enough to want to rush into gold and into cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. And when I say gold, I mean silver and platinum as well, right? And I can definitely see gold going somewhere between 5 to 10 in the event of that happening. So all the gold bugs out there, you're still doing okay. You might have your day in the sun. Of course, the last 10 years wasn't anything compared to Bitcoin. And I don't think the future will be either. I don't want to get into that in this video as to why. But we could definitely see huge gains in silver and fairly large gains, like maybe 5x, maybe anywhere between 3x all the way through to 20x even. You can't really tell. The sky's the limit. It's been manipulated for so long. It's hard to tell what the true value of gold and silver should be right now, based upon supply and demand, based upon the long-term price, the long-term average in price, and how it's been suppressed down to prop up the US dollar. So I just wanted to show you how I'm living as kind of like a hermit, or like a gypsy. And actually, my bus is outside through that roller shutter. I got the metal roller shutter just in case of zombies. And I'm just kind of, my knees fucked, so I'm just laying back, chilling, and waiting for my body to get better. In the meantime, looking at the market, seeing what's going to happen, predicting it pretty well. I've been telling a lot of my friends up at 10 that it's going to go down. It did, and I think it's going to happen a few times. I think there'll be these false breakouts that might shoot up to 11.5, even up to 13.9. Until it breaks through the 16K range, I don't see any chance of it going anywhere near towards 20K. And again, that would only happen if we have major events around the world, major political events where people like, Venezuela, you've got the recent one is Bolivia with the coup that's happened there. That's been reported as, the majority leader gets ousted by the military, and it's not being called a coup by the American mainstream media for obvious reasons, because they're completely bought. So they would say that. Obviously, a lot of fiddling going in the background there, as usual, right? So in the meantime, the same thing is going on. You've got to look at, one of the indicators I look at is Google Trends. You look at Google Trends, easy access information. You can actually see how many times people search Bitcoin. In the last bull market, you can actually look at that to see market sentiment. There's a lot of different indicators of market sentiment. Some are published. Just look for Bitcoin market sentiment. I'm sure you'll find a lot of stuff out there, and even trackers that can look at certain indicators. But overall, I believe it's staying low because there's certain people who need it to stay low. One, miners to get short term. They can swing the situation of hash power to reduce the difficulty rate when their competitors drop out. And then they can, let's say you bought a whole bunch of new Dragon Mint and a whole bunch of new, I can't remember what they're called, I think it's S17, the new Bitmain miners that are much faster than the S9s. Let's say you bought a whole bunch of them. You might not turn them on straight away. It's going to be against your best interest. You try to take out the competition while you're setting them up. Next thing, they reduce their hashing power, difficulty rate decreases, boom, you ramp up your new systems and you're mining at a lower difficulty rate for the next 2 weeks. And then you can, then you can go back to doing your pricing war again, dumping on open public markets instead of OTC. So I think that the miners are probably, even though it seems the whales, especially the new entry corporate world assholes, it seems like they're manipulating the market more, and they would want to if they had the power to. But really, the power is in the hands of the miners here, and they're the ones who are actually manipulating more. And we'll see this power balance. We'll start to see leaders like Donald Trump waking up because and realizing that anyone who's advising him to tell his people to stay away from Bitcoin, he's actually not a patriot. He's someone who wants to see the worst for America because he wants to keep the people poor. When it really matters, it's about the wealth of your country compared to other countries. If your country is poor compared to others, you can't buy anything. You can't carry on this thing like you do with China, because if China's economy becomes stronger than the US's, you're buying off a wealthy neighbor, then you end up accumulating debt, right? So it's all fairly straightforward. The way things are going to go, I think it is the way things are going to go. So far, it's been panning out exactly as I thought, except for certain times in the past. You look at certain indicators in the past when you always update. So you can make a call a long time ago, but if new information comes in and new market activity comes in, you've got to obviously adapt to what's happening. And of course, I made that call early 2018 that now is the time for the manipulators to come in to snap up cheap Bitcoin. Well, I'm going to add on to that now, and I'm going to say now is the time for the mining wars. And I think mining wars are going to probably go on for a long time, if not until the last Bitcoin is being mined at $1 trillion. All right, the equivalent of $1 trillion today. That's the reality of what could happen. If you work it out, the global money supply, you can probably end up saying that one Satoshi will be the equivalent of $1. But of course, $1 will be worth nothing by that time. It wouldn't be even worth one Satoshi because it would have hyperinflation to the point where it was completely illiquid. Nobody wants to buy it. So that's one thing. So I'm going to try stay away from being greedy. But I'll say if anyone out there wants to take more risk, let's say, for example, next time, let's say we reach $3,000 this time. It goes all the way down to $3,000. I think whenever it reaches that bottom, then it might be in its slow ascent and its way up. If those certain activities I said happened before, let's say 4 countries around the world collapsing, and then the people start using Bitcoin, like Venezuela, right? Let's say major strife in America leading to bordering on civil war. Let's say the same thing happens in the UK after Brexit. These things could obviously change, but I don't think it's going to go up until it's ready. I don't think it'll be ready until sometime midway next year onwards. The old market can still manipulate and keep their false currencies from collapsing a little bit longer, therefore keeping the sheeple blind to what they need to do to protect themselves. And meanwhile, the old world investors like JP Morgan buying in on the side, and these OTC platforms, that's what they buy. So I would say it's a fairly safe risk. It's all about probability, isn't it? It's a fairly safe risk to probably play between the $10,000 to $8,000 band. If you get spikes up to 11 and there's no great catastrophes in the world, I'd be saying sell at 11, sell at 11.15. Even if it goes up to 13, doesn't matter. Sometimes if you're short, you don't get greedy. You're trading in any way, don't get greedy. And then when it comes down, you could maybe, let's say, sell out at 8, but you might want to, if you've made enough margin, then you can keep some skin in the game. You may as well keep, let's say it goes down, then it's like, well, let's say you kept 10% of what you traded. And then on that 10%, you're buying it at 1/5 the price that you sold at. You're doing pretty well. So, sometimes it's about, selling on the way down, not expecting to time the bottom, because it's bloody hard. It seems easy when you look at a graph and look back in history, but it's bloody hard. And actually, it's even looking at market indicators, it still is a case of luck because of the manipulation that can change these markets, right? You can't just rely on TA, for example. So that's one thing I wanted to cover there. I'm probably going to be going to Scotland for a while. I'll leave here soon because I've been in the country 5 months, so I don't want to stay to a level that they believe they can take taxes. Why did I buy this house? I bought something cheap because I wanted to test the market. You hear horror stories in some of the Eastern Bloc countries. It's more central, just below Austria. But I still wanted to be sure. I don't want to outlay heaps of money and have the government steal from me or have some mafia steal from me. So I wanted to see what it's like over here. There's been a little bit of bureaucracy. They think it's really bad out here. They think it's bad for corruption, but they have no idea how bad it is in the UK and America and New Zealand to just get little things done with the government over there. So it's a lot more bureaucratic than other countries, I can assure you. But yeah, did pay quite a lot for hospital here for this operation, and they overcharged me another $500. That kind of sucked. But, in that said, it was still $1,900 for a knee operation, 1,900 euros. So, I mean, compare that with American prices, full knee reconstruction. But yeah, the reason why I want to go back to Scotland for a while, I'm going to find out when the referendum is going to be. I'll probably move on to maybe Germany after this, and maybe go up to Norway if my brother's working up there. Get back in the bus again. I might sell the bus and downsize at some stage. I'm thinking it's just if I want to go further east at some stage towards Georgia and go snowboarding once my knee's fixed next winter. That would be good to do in something a little bit smaller. It's a little bit of a hassle taking a vehicle that size because some of these Eastern Bloc border guards just a bit, I won't get into it, but a bit sneaky and I don't know. I just don't trust the situation. I'd rather go in something a little bit more undercover. For my snowboarding trips and and also something more like an expedition vehicle where I can go off road and stuff. So maybe some kind of 4-wheel drive van or something like that, or a 4-wheel drive bus that's smaller than that thing, and do it up, or even have it simple and then slowly do it up over time. What's the thing I was saying before? Yeah, so we've got Scottish Independence Referendum. I'm going to find out when it is. I think it's the end of 2020. So that means I'd have to live there for 3 months before then to be able to vote. Obviously, I've said before that I refuse to live in my own country until it's independent, until it's free, until it's not ruled by England, we've just learned recently through statistics, true statistics, that cannot be ignored. We've been paying for the last 20 years 40% more tax than we should have been paying into the union. So that it equates to billions. And this is why Scotland didn't grow. See, this is things that people like me have known for years. You just can't prove it. Well, now it's proven. And now you can see when I'm arguing with people, even like my cousin, who's against independence because where he's been brought up in Scotland, or anglicised area called St Andrews, and also Selkirk. Why my argument was actually true is that, when you have a feeling but you can't prove it, so you know how ridiculous that sounds because you want to some people want to fact check things, and well, you can't run away from it now. Scotland is paying more than it should, and it has been for a hell of a long time, and it's the exact reason why Norway has caught up to us. They used to have 1.5 million people less to us. Now they have about the same population in the space of time since I've been born, where my population, my country's moved nowhere in that time, and yet we've extracted about 100 billion barrels of oil. Never mind the video games industry like Grand Theft Auto and Minecraft and all these other games that we have out in Scotland, and the DNA research industry, medicine. We've got a lot of different fields in Scotland, plus tourism and whiskey and golf. So there's a lot of things there. Fishing. Maybe I said that twice, but there's a lot there. The fact that we supply so much of England's energy. And hydropower, so we're not spending any money doing it, and it's cleaner. There's just so many different areas. It's just so ridiculous to think that we can't be independent, or they tell us that we can't. The BBC propaganda continues. No one's buying it now. So even the dumbest of the dumb are starting to wake up to that now. So I know that last time, if we'd actually had a fair election system and there was no fraudulent voting from the postal votes, we would already have independence. So I know that it's a fact, but I can't prove it yet. But I know in time I've proved some of it on Quora. Is a big long answer in there. I may stick it in the description below if I remember after this video. But the simple fact is, England can't afford to not have Scotland. It's got creaking at the seams economic problems, and that's problems for them to solve. I don't want them to have problems, but they need to solve the problems, because what they'll do instead is their government are such twats that they will take it to the line, completely drag down Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England together before they'll make any change. It's like, let's burn the house down before we rebuild. No, let's fix things up and actually re-architect and make things good. or else Scotland will have nothing left to rebuild with. That's the simple fact. It needs to get away from England. For Scotland's survival, it needs to be free of England. For England's survival, it needs to wake up as soon as possible and start making some changes. And that will never happen if it keeps on sucking on the tit of Scotland, because that's what it's been doing, even though they've lied and said that they're the ones who basically keep Scotland afloat. It's insane. The resource-rich, low populous country is poor, and the overpopulated resource poor country is the one that's rich. How does that even stack up? Even with the whole industry is finance sector, which is dying, and then also has been propped up by taxes, or else it would have already been dead. And then you've also got the BAE systems creating weapons, and this has been their focus for a long time. The English Empire, the dwindling English Empire that it is. So I will be moving back. I'll be doing things by the book. So I'll live there for however long it takes me to live there to be allowed to vote again, and then move away again until I find out that independence is happening. And if it doesn't happen, then I can imagine it being blocked again this time, because that's what it is blocking. And but 79, they blocked we won that referendum. They blocked it. Margaret Thatcher said it wouldn't be allowed. So when you win it, they disallow it. If you lose it through fraud, they're all happy and expect you to accept it, which we do. Let's see how they accept it when we actually win blatantly. I really believe if it's above 80%, there's nothing you could do to manipulate the ballots to make it seem like they won. And it will be very interesting to see what happens then, because I believe that will happen. I believe that even at 70-odd%, I believe the English apparatus will kick into overdrive and just start getting ridiculous. Because right now you can see that the elite they're so contemptuous of the masses that they don't even believe they should have to lie. Why should we have to lie? No, I should be able to tell the truth. Little beggars. That's what it is kind of like with the elite there, right? It's a different culture than Scotland, and this is why it should be separate. This is why this homogenous bullshit worldwide, multiculturalism thing is this is the globalists what they want. They want to eradicate culture. They want to eradicate differences because they want all the sheep to be the same. There's no point in those sheep having spotted heads and the other one having 3 arms. You know what I mean? And 3 legs. That's what's kind of going on here. England is a dying parasite. That's effectively what it is. And don't be upset if you're English. This is nothing on you. This is to do with our governments. Believe me, once the SNP brings us to independence, you will see a massive drop in support for the SNP. Don't be fooled to think that everyone is a lefty, or even that the SNP are. They used to be known as the Tartan Tories, just to have a bit of historical reference there. And that's for a good reason. They weren't really a lefty party. So, they're going to the order of the day to get things done. I'm still going to remain a Greens member, as I've been for years. I do like Tommy Sheridan's party as well, although I don't like socialism, but I do. Socialism can work in Scotland. It can't work in a lot of countries. It's worked quite well in New Zealand. When I say socialism, I mean partial socialism. Like America has partial, but it has very partial because it doesn't give you anything back for your taxes. Scotland, you get a lot back for your taxes. You can have a much better NHS system than the rest of the UK have. That's why England's one is being set up for failure. So American insurance companies, medical companies can come in and rape and pillage the carcass that is left of their NHS after they sabotage it. So Scotland's stopping that from happening. Scotland's stopping fracking because we obviously have a lot of water. We don't want to destroy that. But the elite do. That creates chaos. It means that you need to suck off the tit of another country. It means that you can never get a stage where if you live anywhere in the world, you're self-sufficient, which is, I told you before why I love Slovenia. It's a self-sufficient country, especially where I am in the farming district northeast of the country, right? They don't rely on anyone. They really are self-sufficient for alcohol, for tobacco, I don't know about tobacco, but for everything. They grow vegetables. They grow. They've got. If you're a big meat eater, they're right into pork and beef and everything out here as well. They don't need the rest of the country even. They can just survive on their own, and that's the sort of place I'm looking for. Minimal government. There's not enough minimal for my liking, but it still is better than most. My preferences in the world still aren't, even though Japan's got a lot of bureaucracy. I like the cultural aspects, for the way people are, the way culture is, the way morals are. Of course, you get, big cities change things. But for the most part, I really like Japan, really like Slovenia, really like Iceland, really like Scotland. I like what Scotland could be if it's free, and I know what it can be when it's free. I know exactly what it's going to be like, because it's pretty much like it now, but with the ability to be successful. Something that's been completely, removed from being a possibility in Scotland, because you don't control your own taxes. You give away $100, and you get 60 back. Well, it's a bit worse than that, because we've been overpaying by 40. So we always have to give something into the union to let it exist. So I think it's probably something more around the 50% mark. I don't know that for sure, but what I do know is we've been over